Hey guys, Rob here with McDojoLife. In today's McDojo news, we're going to talk about how a former MMA fighter slash anti-gun violence activist was recently arrested in a supposed revenge killing that had to do with the death of his son. Let's check out the story. Lumumba Sayers Sr., a former mixed martial arts fighter and anti-gun violence activist whose son was gunned down in Denver's Five Points neighborhood last year, has now been arrested for murder after allegedly killing a man to avenge his son's death. According to an arrest affidavit, Sayers Sr. is accused of shooting a man in the head during a child's birthday party Saturday evening at Pioneer Park in Commerce City. The victim, identified as Malcolm Watson, is believed to be a friend of the man once believed to have killed Sayers Sr.'s son. Watson, age 28, was pronounced dead at the scene with 3 gunshot wounds. Lumumba Sayers Jr., who was also an MMA fighter and anti-gun violence advocate, and another man were killed in a quadruple shooting near the intersection of the 28th and Welton Streets on August 19, 2023. The suspect in that case at the time, Tyrell Braxton, was arrested a month later and charged with murder. Court records show the murder case has since been dismissed. By law in Colorado, records are sealed when a case is dismissed. Braxton was still facing a federal charge of illegal possession of ammunition, according to court records. The arrest affidavit does not detail the alleged relationship between Watson and Braxton, but suggests the connection between the two cases. This murder was probably in retaliation or revenge for Sayers Jr.'s death a year ago, according to a witness account cited in the arrest affidavit. The affidavit describes the series of events that led up to the shooting, which happened around 5 p.m. Saturday, and what transpired after, according to witness accounts. According to the affidavit, Watson was at a birthday party at Pioneer Park Water Park. One witness told police she saw Sayers Sr., who was not in attendance at the party, quote, walk up and shoot the victim in the head at close range. Another witness told police Sayers Sr. had, quote, killed her baby's daddy on the baby's birthday, according to the affidavit. Witnesses also told officers that Sayers Sr. went back to Watson's body and tried to shoot him with a second gun, but that gun jammed. Sayers Sr. then took a set of keys from Watson's pocket before apparently trying to plant a handgun near Watson's body. Tawana McKinley, the mother of shooting victim Malcolm Watson, banged her fists on the court podium, blaring words against the man suspected of her son's murder. The heated hearing marked the first court appearance for 46-year-old Lumumba Sayers Sr., who was officially charged with first-degree murder and 2 counts of menacing by the 17th Judicial District Attorney's Office Thursday morning following the alleged shooting of Watson on Saturday. If you let this man out, it's your fault if guns and bloodshed go on in this community, McKinley said to 17th Judicial Judge Jeffrey Ruff. This is not over, by far, on any side. This is going to go on, Your Honor. McKinley was eventually escorted from the courtroom during Sayers' bond hearing Thursday morning, sharing heated words with the fully packed pews on defendant's side. The victim's side, also packed to the point of having to extend an additional courtroom, cried and cheered as McKinley walked away. Sayers Sr.'s history of anti-violence activism in the community was the main pillar of defense attorney Megan Downing's argument to lower the suspect's bail from the $1 million cash-only bond initially set. Downing added the affidavit raised many questions, like the 10 to 20 shots reported despite only 4 empty casings found near Watson's body. Also, another man described to be dressed in tan was identified as a shooter by a witness. While there's a number of questions raised by this case, what is clearly not in question is that you are dealing with an individual in this community who is nothing short of exceptional, Downing said. Downing pointed towards a collection of letters that the judge had already received boasting Sayers Sr.'s character and claiming how important he was for anti-violence activism in the community. This case is a complex anomaly that I've never seen, Downing continued. At the end of the day, you have a person very deserving of a meaningful bond who has more substantial ties to the community than frankly most anyone I've ever seen. Senior-led Deputy District Attorney Laura Anders and multiple family members of Watson disagreed that the bond should be lowered, claiming that friends and family are fearful of Sayers Sr. continuing an alleged revenge plot. He's a man on a vengeance, and a man on a vengeance does not deserve to be a part of our community, Denisha Stevenson, Watson's older sister, said. It was not only a murder, but a murder at a community pool in front of hundreds of children and families. If you let this man out on a lower bond, you, as a judge, are telling this community that make a couple of slogans, pat a couple kids on the back, give out some backpacks, and a couple of weeks later, during the process of planning my backpack drive, I could be plotting the murder of another man who had nothing to do with my son's death, McKinley told the judge. Ruff ultimately increased Sayers Sr.'s bond to $5 million cash only. The paramount issues in the bonding statute are really twofold, Ruff said. The court's belief that you will return on bond for your hearing and the safety of the community, and the subset of that, the safety of the victims. Those are the factors I have to consider. Sayers Sr. is a former MMA fighter who started the Heavy Hands, Heavy Hearts boxing gym in Aurora, which aims to steer young people away from violence through structured training and a sense of belonging. He operated a foundation with the same name. His son, Lumumba Sayers Jr., was also an MMA fighter and was heavily involved in the boxing gym and foundation. Sayers Sr. said his son was a leader in the Denver metro area Gloves Up, Guns Down program. Similar organizations exist in cities nationwide. He was stopping a lot of violence here in the community, Sayers Sr. told Denver 7 in the wake of his son's death, putting on boxing matches and stuff and showing these kids that there's a different way. Sayers Sr. lamented the fact that his son's life was taken by the very form of violence both men worked to prevent. This coward shot my son. The community that we protect, we try to provide for. The community that he tried to help guide in a different direction that he grew up in. They killed my son, he said in 2023. A community leader said Sayers Sr. is still, quote, in a dark place when it comes to his son's death. When a person goes through something like this, they need ongoing support. The grief process, the mourning does not go away, said Todays McDojo, who owns the Aurora Resource Center, Rediscovery Through Wellness. People have their own lives, and so people begin to move back to their own sense of normalcy, which didn't necessarily happen with Lumumba. He was so close to his son. He grieved in a different way because of how he's been available to the community and to other families who've lost children to gun violence. McDojo said she and other community members were on a 2-hour-long call Monday morning discussing the arrest of Sayers Sr. and the murder of Watson. It was draining. From the standpoint of us having to look at the reality of the state of our community, she said. McDojo added that she and others now focused on what's next. What's next is about maintaining peace, but also making sure that we're taking care of those who can't take care of themselves because now they're devastated. And prayer for the hearts of everyone that hearts don't get hardened as a result of this, McDojo said. She said she plans on putting together an informed trauma response event for leaders and youth in the community on Saturday. She wants the event to bring people together to help process and support one another. Everybody has a responsibility right now to respond in a healthy way, to acknowledge that this pain is there and there has been an impact. And if we're not responding, we are doing our community and ourselves an injustice, she said. Sayers Sr. is scheduled to be next in court for a preliminary hearing October 4th, at which time prosecutors will present enough evidence to the judge to send the case to trial. Let's unpack that. This story is super sad. A father and a son worked so closely in a community to try to stop gun violence. The son, unfortunately, became a victim of the exact same violence that he tried to stop. And then the cycle was perpetuated again by the father shooting and killing a man that he believes most likely was a part of his son's murder. Now, on one hand, I'm sure that anyone out there can probably relate to the father and think that this might be a justified killing, and on the other hand, there are people out there who might think he's a hypocrite. Whatever the case may be, this only brings heartache. It's only saddened and saddened more by more violence and more death. Whether you think the father is justified or whether you think that he's not, doesn't matter here because the facts are still the facts. There are dead bodies in the wake of this violence. This brings us to the question of the day. In my opinion, the weapon used here doesn't really matter. I think at the end of the day, the root problem is the violence itself. I feel if it wasn't this weapon, it would have been another one or another one or another one. So my question of the day is, how can we as a community stop these violent acts? What can we do better as a society that will make people less violent in general? Obviously, we cannot stop all violence. That is impossible. That will never happen. But how can we curb that? How are we able to kind of make that happen less? Let me know what you think in the comment sections below. As always, thank you all for the likes, comments, shares, subscriptions, memberships. Check out McDojoLife.com. Keep the martial arts legit.
My baby got robbed the other day by degenerates. So she wanted to learn some new form of this self-defense. So she did her research and perused it online and found this dude said he could move shit with his mind. He called himself Seafood Paul Zimmerman. He got a dojo with a strip mall near Cinnabon. Now she spends all day trying to